session, I will introduce John. So John is a speaker, entrepreneur, writer, and senior advisor to business owners. He has started and run 7 companies, advised business executives in dozens of industries, and given hundreds of presentations and speeches. He is also a founding partner of the Business Transition Alliance. So John, you're talking today about whether to grow, exit, or step back and building value in uncertain times. So I'll kind of let you take it away at 2:30, okay?
Thank you.
All right, best of luck, and let me know if you need anything from me.
All right, thanks a lot. Yes, thank you very much for the introduction. And as mentioned, today we're going to talk about this topic of growing, exiting, or stepping back from your business. We're at a time here where there's a lot of discussion about value in businesses and how individuals who are in a position where they grow, exit, or step back are giving considerable consideration to the value of the business. So we're going to cover around the topic of value in the business in this next half hour. So first of all, what are these 3 things that have in common? Your business exiting or stepping back? Well, as we'll see, the issue of value is common to all of those issues. Whether you intend to stay with the business and just grow it up, or whether you intend to step back from it and let others manage it, or whether in fact you plan to exit it. Value is at the heart of all of this. And so some of the things we're going to cover off, and start off with one of the big ones. How has the pandemic impacted the business value? And then we're going to go into what is value? How do you kind of define that? What does that mean? And what are the top value drivers? What are the things that will drive and build up the value? What impacts value, and where do I start? If your business has been impacted in these last few months, where do you start to build that back out again? Question that I'm sure you're wrestling with if you're attending this seminar is this a good time to sell my business? And we'll wrestle with that one a little bit. We'll come around to the question of why are you here, and what are some of the things that you should be doing, and where do you start? And at the end, we'll kind of finish off with some thoughts on how perhaps we can help you through that. So let's get started. Has the recent pandemic impacted business value? It's a tough question, and I'm sure, as I said earlier, if you're in the situation where you're giving that some thought, you've probably asked other people that same question. I'm in the same situation. I've gone out and talked to some people, and our clients are obviously asking us, and I've gotten some input from some folks. So for one, Colin Walker, who's a managing partner of Crosby here in the city, an M&A firm, his comment is this, that M&A hates uncertainty. And we're starting to see a shift from the sellers to a buyer's market, and valuations are down, and they're likely going to stay down for a while. And as a result, financing is more difficult from both the banks and from private lenders. And Colin goes on to say that thoughtful preparation is crucial and critical at this time. Sellers need to improve the business and create the best ingredients that they can, and to build that into the business as they take it into the M&A process. That's from somebody who is in the mergers and acquisition business and deals with this every day. I also went over and talked to Melanie Russell. Melanie's actually on this forum a little bit later on, and I asked her what's going to be different in this as we work through the COVID issues. And if you're in that situation, it's a key challenge. And her response was the fundamentals will really be no different. Businesses will still be judged on how well you understand your business, for example, how you make money, how clearly you can communicate your value, and sound and believable projections. In other words, if you've been changing the direction or pivoting where your company is going, how believable are your projections of how that's all going to work out for you? So that's what I'm hearing from people who are closest to this. In summary, it's a buyer's market, valuations are down, financing is more difficult, preparation for a sale is critical, Sellers, should you be in that situation, need to improve the business, and we're going to focus on that today. And you need to understand how you make money and communicate that value in order to go forward with some, believable projections. So that's kind of what we hear from the folks closest to the front lines. Let's talk about value drivers. What are value drivers? In preparing for this conversation today, I went back and looked at this slide, and I've used this slide for several months, a couple of years actually, I guess. And I wondered, gee, maybe I should change this. Maybe this whole pandemic has changed what drives business value. But as I discussed it more with others and we looked at it more clearly, the answer is no. It's still the same. In fact, if anything, this top value driver of a strong management team is even more important in these days. And I'll tell you why in a few minutes. Things like stable cash flow and revenue trends, naturally, those continue to be important, the measure of the financial strength of the business. But that strong management team is the way you're going to turn things around. If your cash flow is falling off, if your revenue trends are shifting, it's that management team that's going to make that work for you. So that's why we still put that on the top of our list. The strength of the brand is important. We'll talk about branding in an example a little bit later, but is your brand reflective of where you have been and where you've come from as a company, or is it more reflective of where you're going as a company? So that's a key differentiator, is are you aware of how things have changed and how you need to change your brand? So that's a value driver. If you're in an asset-heavy business, whether it's in transportation or busing or whatever, assets obviously are of big concern, and the condition of those assets is a value driver. Documented processes and procedures, whatever industry you're in, at whatever time, is crucial. And someone looking at your business from the outside, if they are considering an acquisition, they want to know that when they walk in, things are going to be right aligned, and everything's going to fall in place. It's not going to take them, they're going to have to reinvent this thing when they come into it, because the process and procedures are all there and documented. That's key. Growth potential, especially now that you can no longer just look at the past performance as a marker of where the business is going to go. With the shift in maybe the business or the shift in certainly the market, growth potential is a tougher one to manage. So the more convincing you can be about the potential for the growth based on your understanding of where you're going with your business, the more value that's going to drive in your business. The last one on our list is kind of tied into that potential, and it's that diversified customer base. This continues to be an issue that you need to manage, is how broadly are you distributed across customers and not overly reliant on one or two. So as I said, this hasn't changed much, if at all, over the past year. These are fundamentals that drive good and high value. Let's talk a little bit about what value really is. What's a little bit of a textbook, if you will, definition of that. Business value, in a sense, is all forms of value that determine the success and saleability of a company. The success and saleability. So if you're going to keep the business and you're going to focus on it to grow it, the value is going to be, you're going to measure the value based on how you can grow that business. If you're going to sell the business, it's the same issue. You need to be able to measure that value based on making it more saleable. And we'll talk about that. But there's some issues here that kind of change the whole perspective, if you will, of value. And it's beyond just the economic value, the EBITDA, which now, by the way, is known as EBITDA-C, which stands for COVID. How has COVID impacted the financial performance of your business? And it extends through what we talked about earlier, employee value rather, customer supplier value. How sturdy is your customer base? Are they able to pay? How sturdy is your supplier base? Are they in trouble? These will have impacts on your value. Your business model, is it unique? Is it something that someone else can adapt fairly quickly and therefore drive competition? Is your intellectual property aligned? Do you have some opportunities there you're not taking advantage of? Do you own your intellectual property? Do your employees own your intellectual property? The reputational value of the brand, again, we'll come back to this, but this is people are trying to determine whether you as a company, you as a business, understand the realities of where this world is going. And if your brand doesn't reflect that, that's going to impact the value of the business. Managerial value is slightly different from employee value. Employee value is how you're in the business and they're working hard and all of that. Is how well that senior management team can operate the business. Understand where you make money and where you don't. Do they have direct responsibility for client relationships and for bringing revenue in? That sort of value that they are adding as managers. Societal value has become very important in the last couple of years. Are you doing good work? Are you doing things that people want to invest in or people want to buy because it's good for the society? So it's all of these range of values that are being measured in terms of the overall value of the business, and much more important than just purely the focus on the EBITDA or the financial aspects of it. So, big picture, what impacts value? And if I have been impacted, the value of my company has been impacted, where do I start to repair that? I have what I call the value framework, and it's a all-inclusive sort of view of the various aspects of issues that drive value. And it starts out at the macro view of the macro view of the environment. And that's things like the economy, regulation, lifestyle, people's changes in lifestyle, demographics, how people are aging, disasters. And we have probably never been in a more crucial time when we are seeing these macro issues of disasters impact the economy. We've got a health disaster through COVID, and we've got a financial disaster in the economy. And these are issues that are out there and putting pressure on businesses and putting pressure on the value of the business. There's not a lot that business owners can do about this at this macro level, but you need to be aware that it's there, and the things that you can do, how that may impact or move you through some of these macro issues. Next are the things that are closer to you, your customers, your competitors, your suppliers, and the people who directly impact your business. Your competitors, for example, if they're in trouble, do they drop their price, forcing you to respond, putting downward pressure on your margins and your cash flow? Your customers, are they sound? Are they asking you for terms? Is that putting further pressure on your cash flow? Are you losing key customers? Are they, in a steady position where they can continue to purchase from you? These are all issues that are close to you that are impacting the market issues that are impacting your business and the value of it. At the center of all of this is the actual micro aspect of your business, your strategy, your people, your routines and processes, and your culture. And this is where you start to build value. It's at this micro environmental level of your business. Are you building out the business strategy to reflect the new direction? Are you incorporating sales plans in there that are now believable based on that new direction? Are your employees engaged? All the things we just talked about that drive value. Have you got your defined processes reworked to support the new direction your company may be going in? Your performance metrics, likewise, are they reworked to support the employees' goals and initiatives so that all drives you towards your new goals? All of these things have to align. Your operational efficiencies, are you now measuring those based on the new realities of the business? So this is where you start to build out the value of your business. Let's switch and talk a little bit about the timing of all of this. Is this a good time to sell your business? I'm sure that you're asking yourself this question, and many of you who are at this event are probably, this is maybe some of the things that are keeping you awake at night. Well, let me give you the answer. It depends. I know that's not the answer you were looking for, but let me put a little bit more flesh around that. It depends on how sound that microenvironment that you live in every day is. if you've built out your business planning and your strategy based on the new realities, if your sales plans reflect that and your employees' engagement all reflects where you're going in this new world, if your online defined processes are, incorporating more online work perhaps than face-to-face, if your performance metrics are and you've worked out those operational efficiencies to be able to allow you to track how you're making progress against your new goals, if all of this is aligned and you are doing work on that, then yes, who knows? This may be a very good time because you're prepared for any downturn, be it COVID or be it anything else. You're doing what you can at that micro level to address the issues that will build your value and impacting all those other things on the other levels of that value framework we talked about. So the answer could be, yeah, this is a good time to sell your business. As Mark mentioned before at the introduction, there's a lot of money out there chasing good business opportunities. There are a lot of buyers. It is a buyer's market. So there are a lot of buyers out there looking. But if you've got a solid business that has really worked on its micro activities, its planning, its culture, its branding, and all the things that make it a strong company that allow you to withstand any downturn, then this could be a very good time to sell your business. Let's switch gears a little bit because it's not just about COVID. And Mark alluded to this as well in his introduction. COVID has certainly got everybody's attention now, and we need to do everything we can, both from a health perspective and a financial perspective and a business perspective and a personal perspective in terms of how we treat each other and our employees and our family to deal with it. I don't want to minimize it, but that's not the only thing that businesses need to be concerned about. This tsunami that's coming is this baby boomer retirement. The fact that we are looking at a significant number of baby boomer owners who are planning to transition. As Mark mentioned, there's I have the actual numbers here, 1,201,356 small and medium-sized businesses, that's according to Stats Canada and last year's numbers. This number is probably a little lower now based on some current information we're getting that some businesses have obviously had to fold given the unfortunate situation of the pandemic, but it's in relative terms, it's close to, say, let's call it 1.2 million businesses. Small businesses being 1 to 99 employees, mid-sized businesses being 100 employees to 499, and larger businesses being 500 employees and above. That represents 99.8% of the companies in Canada. So it's almost 100. But there are 0.02% of the businesses out there that are considered large companies. So I'm assuming that everybody on this call is in this small to medium-sized business grouping. And again, back to some of the comments that Mark made at the beginning, 47% of those SME owners are intending within 5 years to exit the business. That number as well has probably gone up. This came from CFIB about a year ago. So I'm assuming that number has gone up as well. But here's where it gets a little scary. That number goes to 72% when you start considering the number of owners who plan to exit over the next 10 years. Now, I've done the math for you on this. And what does that mean in terms of businesses? Somewhere between 565,000 and 865,000 businesses over the next 5 to 10 years. 865,000 businesses are going to transition over the next 10 years. So that's a huge number. But what does it mean? It means that the next generation of owners, the people who are out there now and are considering buying or investing in a new business, or maybe your own management team who's considering taking over your business, they've got choices. They're going to, out of all of that 875,000 businesses that are out there, they're going to be able to pick and choose the one that is best valued for them, the one that fits with their personal skills, obviously, but the ones that are valued the most effectively and most highly. So business owners need to be prepared. So I want to again, switch gears a little bit and talk to you about a client that we've been working with for some time, and give you a sense of what they've been doing to build up their value in their situation. And this goes back 6 or 7 years in the relationship I've had with this organization. And this is a company of about 50 employees. They're in the engineering environmental engineering business. And the owners, there are 3 of them, want to transition. This chart here goes back and identifies the way it was about 5 years ago. Owners wanting to transition within this 3 to 5 year period. They had some challenges though. They needed to grow the business dramatically, but the real challenge was that some 96% of the revenues were coming from the owners themselves. And the senior managers, while they're very effective and they're excellent and intelligent people, very smart individuals, they weren't engaged in doing any of the revenue generation. And they had regulation and economic issues. Environmental industry is obviously highly regulated, and they had some sectors that weren't performing very well in some of their clients. So they had those as drivers that were compressing the value. They had no marketing expertise internally, and they had a lot of established competition, bigger companies who were able to outbid them. And a lot of business in this field is driven through RFPs. So larger organizations can put downward pressure on smaller organizations. And their service wasn't differentiated. They offered a similar kind of service as some of their bigger competitors. So where do you start? No question. You start, at that micro level. You start trying to understand your strategy, your people, the routines that you go through and the processes and the culture. And this is where you start to work away at building up that value of the business so that you can step back from it. In this situation, we went out and I interviewed a fair number of their clients to say, well, why do you deal with this company? What is it that's unique and special? Why? With the staff, we took them through a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, so that they could start to look at it from inside. So we had the outside perspective from what the clients thought, and the inside perspective from what employees thought were the strengths and weaknesses and where they should go. And then we got the employees to start building out the value propositions, talk about the value statements. So it really came from within the company. And we developed a brand differentiator to separate the company from others. And we started to position this on the website and all their other marketing. What we did, in a sense, was change the conversation. No longer were they talking about, yeah, we have the same services as those bigger companies, but they changed that conversation entirely. And they started, instead of the services they offer, they started talking about the value they offer. So that value was how we can make you better managers as our clients, how you as our clients will become better managers because we understand your business and because we're going to offer you that extra value. I don't have time in this short session to take you through all of how this all worked, but the outcome 4 years later is the brand awareness is building, revenue is increasing, but here's the exciting part. And an increase of their business revenues was one thing, but greater than 60% of that revenue is coming now from the management team. That's a huge difference from the way it was 4 years previous. They developed this market disruptor, and they're starting to have conversations with people, and they were, in a position to attract, more key personnel. So what did this company do over the last 6 months? They did not sit back and say, well, we're kind of in good shape, we can withstand this. No, we helped them create a series of videos that featured those senior managers and have them explain this unique. And we're launching this out to all of their customers and out to their, customers. And those managers are out there looking for a way to teach the story in seminars at industry trade shows and virtual trade shows, etc. And they're attracting, new key personnel at the same time. So a company that is ready now for further downturns or well-positioned to be taken over if at this point those owners decide this is what they want to do. So let's talk about you. we assume that you're here because you have some questions and issues about where you're going to go and how you're going to get out of this thing and where you're going to take your business going into the future. So what are some of the things you should do? Well, as you can tell from what we've talked about here, the first thing is you can get some clarity on your specific value drivers and what is it that's unique about your business, so that you drive the value of the business that will be more reflective of where the marketplace is going. So that's a key differentiator from where you may have been going in the past. You can identify those strategies that will help you build that value. So once you've identified what those values are, how do you then build strategies around that to get that information out there, to make sure not only your employees, but now your clients or your prospective clients start to understand what differentiates you, and how do you build that value? And then the tricky part, how do you implement measurable initiatives to build on that value? And practical things like making sure your logo is current and your website is current, your message, all those things that truly reflect what it is that you need to say are different you in a world that has somewhat changed. We have this saying that we use in our company, and it's on some of our marketing materials, about timing on all of this. And when is the time? What's the time to do it? And this is a favorite Chinese proverb of mine. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is now. So yeah, it's a tough time. If there's no doubt about it that there are things out there that really need our attention. But one of the key things that need your attention is how you invest in your business to prepare it for the future, based on what we've been going through. And now it is the time to do that. So how do you get started on that? And I mentioned that we'd end off with this. And because COVID certainly has impacted a lot of business, some in a very positive way. I mean, we do have clients that are benefiting from this in ways they would have not expected. However, the majority of companies are having to adjust to what has happened in the last while. So what we've done is we've put together, and we always use this as a document. We've just refined it to reflect COVID a little bit, and 17-point document that goes through all of the key parts of a business. It addresses everything from operation, who owns what, to your IT and your HR. Are you prepared for the future? Your operational processes, all of those we talk about. We have this conversation with owners to make sure that we understand where they're going. And this is a complimentary service. We don't charge a fee for this. It's a way for us to get to understand how our prospective clients will work and think, and it's a way for them to understand how we think, and it fleshes out some really good thinking. So when we do fill in this chart, and we've identified over on the right-hand side, what are the 4 or 5 things that will pop out of this that really need to be focused on, and we've overlaid the impact of what COVID may have had on those things. We then know where to start to have the conversation about what needs to be changed and how can we help you make those changes. So we can bring clarity. We can help bring clarity to your specific value drivers, as we've discussed here. And we can focus on some strategies and help you focus on some strategies that will enable you to start building that value. And we can provide some hands-on help to implement those new strategies. So you may want to give that some thought as you think about this whole issue and where you want to go with it. We'd be glad to talk to you. And if you feel like following up, feel free to contact me or one of my partners at Business Transition Alliance. You can just hop on our website and have a look around and see some of the things we've done, and we'd be glad to talk to you. Okay. So that's kind of where I was and wanted to end off. Thank you very much for listening. Jesse, I don't know if you have any questions we need to answer.
I just wanted to thank you for joining us today and speaking at the event. So I definitely thought you touched on some really interesting points there. Obviously, I'm not looking to sell or buy a business myself, but you're obviously super knowledgeable, and I think it will be very helpful to all attendees that came to the event today. So
Thank you.
All
Thank you
right.
very much.
Yeah, for sure. So I hope you can stick around and, do some networking at the event and, meet some people, maybe see some other sessions.
Great. Thanks very much.
No problem. All right. Thanks so much.